In today's Thirsty Thursday video, we are going to make a cocktail with things that we just happen to have around the house. And yet, this is a good one. Welcome to Thirsty Thursday. Today's video has an interesting backstory. Not the invention of the cocktail, but why I decided to do it this week. A few days ago, my wife was just looking to see what we had on hand for shopping. Everything, not just what we had, in the bar. And she said, why don't you just make a cocktail with something that we have on hand? And she actually researched this and found a variation of a drink that we modified to what we had on hand. So this is going to be a Bourbon Orange Crush. And let's look at the ingredients. We're going to use bourbon, of course. I'm using 4 roses. Why? Because we happen to have it around the house. Triple sec. Now, this is not by a long shot a top shelf triple sec. It's a pretty cheap one, but it's going to work nevertheless. Triple sec just gives it a little bit of sweetness and a little bit of orange flavor. And then we had, a couple of Florida oranges in our refrigerator. I always say Florida oranges. I don't really believe that they're Florida oranges because that would be out of season right now. We're going to use a mint, and I'm really disappointed in my mint. I am learning that I have to replant, because my mint, first of all, is growing in my lanai in a pot. It starts to get choked off after about 6 to 9 months. So I have to replant that, just start from scratch, about every half year. So it's time, and as soon as I'm done with this video, I think that's what I'm going to do, because these mint leaves are pathetic. They still smell great though, and they're going to do a great job. So that's our recipe. Let's get started. Now, the one problem that I have is my orange press is almost too small for the oranges that I have. So I hope that this works. You've seen me in the past. I have just taken and quartered the oranges, and that way they would fit into the press a little better. And I might do that today as well. First, I'm going to take one little slice, and this is going to be my garnish. So we're going to set that aside and not use that. But I think I am going to quarter these just because it's easier in my orange press. So we'll just quarter these oranges. What we're trying to get is 4 ounces of fresh squeezed orange juice. Do you have to use fresh squeezed? No, certainly not. You can use whatever you have around the house. That is today's theme. As a matter of fact, I'm not convinced that I'm going to be getting 4 ounces out of these 2 oranges anyway, but we'll find out. It looks like we have 4 ounces and we have 1/4 of an orange to spare. So that's really good. Now, we are going to be shaking this cocktail, so you can see we're already getting our condensation around our shaker. So we're going to pour the 4 ounces of orange juice into our Boston shaker. Next, we are going to use 2 ounces of bourbon. And if you want to remember, there goes our 2 ounces. If you want to remember a very easy way to remember this recipe, all you really need to do is remember how much orange juice we put in. And then the next item, bourbon, we cut it in half, and the next one, triple sec, we cut that in half. So we put in 4 ounces, cut that in half, it's 2 ounces of bourbon, cut that in half, and it's 1 ounce of our triple sec. Easy as that. And we're going to put our Boston shaker together and shake the daylights out of it. Woohoo! It's getting so cold. They have Boston shakers that have leather on the outside, and I just might look into one of those. Oh, you know what I need to get? I need to strain this. If you could just bear with me, I'll be right back. I should have just used my strainer shaker, I don't know why I didn't think of that. So the next thing we're going to need before we strain this is to get some crushed ice into our hurricane glass. That ought to be enough for now. We'll see how far this takes us. Ooh, that looks good. And this really, you could argue about whether or not this is a tropical cocktail. But I'll tell you, with all of the orange, it doesn't have rum, which is usually what we associate with a tiki drink. But it's hard to argue that it doesn't look and taste like a tiki drink. So what we're going to do is take our pathetic mint sprigs and always give them a little, oh, that smells good. A little slap to bring out that essence. And then we're going to use our, oh, I didn't cut a slit in this. We're going to use our orange slice. And look at that. Tell me this doesn't look like a cocktail that belongs right down here in southern Florida. We are in the tropical region, at least a subtropical region, and what a better drink to have on a beautiful summer day here in southern Florida. Let's give it a try. Oh boy, that is so good. It almost defies description. I can tell you what, I know you hear this from me all the time, but when you bring that up to take a drink, you smell that mint, you smell that orange, and already you have so many senses going before you even take that first taste. It's so smooth. This is going to sound strange, but it almost tastes creamy. You get the orange, the bourbon, it's not strong, but it's not subtle either. You get a really good bourbon taste. So this is a really great drink. And it's just something that we had sitting around the house. We had bourbon, we had triple sec, we had a few oranges, and you can make a beautiful cocktail that you'll be proud to serve to anybody. Well, I made a little bit of a mess here, but I hope you enjoyed this one. This is so good and so easy, and if you haven't gotten into shaken cocktails, you know, this isn't an expensive item. I'll list it down below. It just really helps because it does such a thorough job of mixing those, especially when you have cream liqueurs that are going into this, when you have a lot of citrus and you want to get that all mixed up really well, you want to get it chilled. There's no better way than with a shaker. And also putting that crushed ice. Now, fortunately, you know, my refrigerator just dispenses crushed ice, but that is so great for a tropical cocktail because that ice, it starts to melt a little bit, and it really is an integral part of the mixing and the tasting of that cocktail. It doesn't quite dilute it. Well, it does dilute it, but it doesn't dilute it in the sense that you think, wow, it tastes watery. It dilutes it to the point where everything mixes really, really well. I'm happy with this one. I hope you give it a try. As always, I encourage you to like and share the video. Leave your comments down below. If you haven't already, please subscribe by clicking my face in the corner, and don't forget to ring that bell icon. That way you'll know when I post new videos. Thanks for joining me. I'm Mark, and this is the Average Me Channel. So good.